The city awoke with the usual chorus of rushing footsteps, honking horns, and hurried voices. But for one little girl, the world remained eerily silent. Her name was Aria Harrington, daughter of one of the richest businessmen in the country, yet she had never spoken a word. From the day she was born, her voice lay buried deep inside, a secret locked beyond the reach of the finest doctors, the most expensive therapists, and the most advanced machines her father's wealth could buy. To the outside world, Victor Harrington was unstoppable, a man who built empires from nothing. But when he looked into his daughter's quiet eyes, he saw the one battle he could not conquer. Aria's silence was not just absence of sound, it was a wound. At birthday parties, she sat quietly as other children sang. At school, she drew pictures instead of answering questions. At home, she sometimes pointed at her throat and shook her head when her father begged her to try. Her mother had passed when she was only 3, leaving Victor desperate to shield her from further pain. But no matter how much he tried, he could not give her what mattered most. His empire sparkled, his mansions gleamed. Yet in the quiet of his daughter's gaze, he was powerless. One morning, as Victor's sleek black car pulled into a bustling city square for another high-stakes meeting, Aria sat in the back seat, staring out of the tinted glass. Among the blur of suits and umbrellas, she spotted something unusual. A girl, not much older than herself, weaving through the crowd. Dirt streaked her cheeks, her dress was torn, and her shoes barely clung to her feet. Yet in her hand, she clutched an old glass bottle filled with a golden liquid that shimmered faintly even in the harsh daylight. Despite her ragged appearance, her eyes blazed with determination, as if she carried within her a secret the world had overlooked. Aria pressed her small palm against the window, captivated. There was something magnetic about the girl, something raw and unexplainable. Her name was Mira, though no one in the square bothered to ask. To most, she was invisible, just another orphan scraping by on scraps. But to Aria, she was a figure glowing against the grayness of the world. That evening, when Victor disappeared into a tall building to negotiate another deal, Aria tugged at the driver's sleeve and pointed insistently toward the square. The driver hesitated, but, reading the silent plea in her eyes, allowed her out. Aria's shoes clicked softly on the cobblestones as she followed the soundless pull of fate. Near the fountain, Mira knelt, pouring a few drops from her bottle into the water before sipping carefully. Aria approached slowly, her golden hair gleaming against the fading light. Mira noticed her immediately, recognizing the unmistakable divide between their worlds, one draped in wealth, the other clothed in struggle. Still, she didn't run. She simply tightened her grip on the bottle. Without speaking, Aria pointed to it, her blue eyes wide with curiosity. Mira studied her for a long moment before whispering, "This isn't ordinary. My grandmother said it carries hope. It gives voice to what's trapped inside." Her words were barely audible above the murmur of the square. But Aria felt their weight. Hesitation flickered across Aria's face. Yet something inside her urged her forward. Mira tipped the bottle gently, offering her a sip. The liquid glowed strangely, as though sunlight had melted into honey. Aria raised it to her lips, heart pounding. At first, nothing. The city remained noisy. Strangers walked past, unaware of the miracle about to unfold. Then suddenly, a burning sensation spread across her throat. Fierce but liberating, as though something imprisoned was clawing its way out. Her chest tightened, her breath hitched. Mira reached out, alarmed she had made a mistake. And then it happened. A trembling sound escaped Aria's lips. Not a cough, not a gasp, something real, fragile, yet undeniable. A single word tumbled out, weak but alive. "Papa." Across the square, Victor had just emerged from his meeting. His polished shoes halted mid-step. The briefcase slid from his grasp, clattering against stone as disbelief spread across his face. His mute daughter, had spoken. Tears surged into his eyes as he sprinted toward her, arms outstretched. "Papa?" She cried again, louder, stronger. The word rang like a bell that had waited years to sound. Victor caught her in his arms, sobs breaking through the armor he wore to the world, for the first time since her birth. Her voice shattered the silence that had haunted their home. The crowd froze, some gasping, some whispering, but for Victor and Arya, there was no one else. Only the ragged girl who had given them this impossible gift. Victor turned to Myra, eyes red, and for the first time in his life, the proud millionaire fell to his knees before someone who had nothing. "Who are you?" he asked, voice shaking. Myra simply smiled faintly. Someone who believed her voice was never gone. It was only waiting. Victor tried to press money into her hand, stacks of bills. Promises of comfort, but Myra shook her head firmly. "I didn't do it for money. No child should live without hope." Her words struck him deeper than any business loss ever had. In that moment, Victor realized he had been throwing wealth at silence when all his daughter needed was belief, the kind Myra carried, despite her hunger, her pain, her poverty. True riches were not in gold or towers of glass, but in kindness, in faith, in the courage to hope. That night, Victor searched for Myra across the square, but she had vanished into the crowd. For days he looked, sending men into alleys, offering rewards, but she was nowhere to be found. Until one cold evening he discovered her curled beneath an archway, clutching her bottle like a shield. Without hesitation, he wrapped his coat around her. This time, he didn't offer cash. He offered family. Myra resisted at first, afraid of stepping into a mansion that belonged to another world, but Arya's small hand found hers. With her newfound voice, she whispered a single word that sealed their bond forever: "Sister." From that day forward, laughter returned to halls that had once echoed with silence. Myra's kindness lit corners that money had never reached, and Arya's voice grew stronger with every passing day. Two girls from opposite worlds became inseparable, teaching even the wealthiest man alive that the most precious treasure was not power, not possessions, but the miracle of compassion. And so, what began with a single sip in a crowded square became a story that would be remembered forever, of a mute child who found her voice, an orphan who gave more than money ever could, and a father who finally understood that the truest riches are born not of wealth, but of love.